With the recent decline in modern MMORPG gaming innovations and the dedication to the casual player, many gamers are reaching to relive the golden age of online gaming through classic emulators such as EverQuest Reborn, Final Fantasy XI Nasomi, and many more. Today we're going to explore Final Fantasy XI Nasomi and take a look at some useful tips as we dive back into one of our classic favorites. Cygnet is a buff that is provided by the Conquest Knights in most of the local cities and throughout the world of Vana'diel. Now what Cygnet does is it provides you a buff that allows you to collect crystals from mobs that grant experience points, as well as gain conquest points on your adventures that not only contribute to the conquest of your nation throughout the world and allow you to get those outposts, but also allows you to use that conquest point currency to purchase things like warp scrolls, return rings, and things of that nature. So it's very important that you keep this buff up at all times. Again, you can get those from the local gate guards in most cities, as well as several NPCs throughout the world, depending on where your nation stands in conquest. Now, repeatable quests are super important, especially if you're fresh to the game and you're just starting out. A lot of things require gil that you're not going to have initially, and these repeatable quests allow for you to not only accumulate gil, but they also contribute to your fame in your nations, and you're going to need fame for various things throughout the world. So it's very important that you do these repeatable quests. For example, there's a quest in Sandoria that allows you to turn in bat wings, and 2 at a time will grant you 200 gil, as well as a quest in southern Sandoria that will give you 120 gil for the turn-in of 3 rabbit hides. Now what I recommend is finding a sustainable farming point and leveling up your lower level jobs. Now what I did when I first started Nasomi several months ago when I started playing Final Fantasy again was I leveled all of my base level or my base jobs up to level 10, and I did this through a means of leveling purely by killing rabbits and turning in those hides to get my initial gil. And then after that, I moved on to King Rompier's tomb, where I then proceeded to kill bats for bat wings. And I would recommend following something similar to this in your starting nation. Every starting nation has some sort of similar quest that you can do and get the same types of rewards and contributes to your fame in that city. So I strongly recommend going out and doing those repeatables, not only for the gil, but also for the fame to make your life a little bit easier. Subjobs are another important element in Final Fantasy XI. Now what a subjob is it's a job that you assign as a secondary job, essentially, that is half the level of your primary job, and you will also get the traits associated with the job up to that half level, the abilities, as well as any spells, and you also get a minor stat boost to your overall character. Subjobs are super important. You can obtain these by doing the quest in Mara or Selbina, and they do require you to kill mobs and attain certain items, and those items may or may not come in your normal lineup of XP groups. But the nice thing is that in Nasomi, there are tons of people willing to help with that. So be sure to get those done as soon as you hit level 18 and you're able to do that, because they will make your life so much easier in so many different ways. Another really important thing to do in Final Fantasy is to try the jobs. I say this because there are so many different changes that can come in your enjoyment of the game by trying different jobs. Once you've unlocked your sub-jobs, you have different jobs that you can substitute for certain scenarios. You have different jobs that you can utilize as a meta when you're doing certain types of content. And more importantly is trying out that job that you find out that you love, and it completely changes what you think about the game and reignites a fire to get on every day and play the game with friends. So be sure to check out those jobs. Try as many as you can and really get into it, because it's a great source of beastman seals, crystals, materials, and those beastman seals are really going to come in handy later on when you're trying to get money or that rare item that you need for your particular main. So be sure to try out as many as you possibly can. Now, in these traditional MMOs, we don't think of fast travel as being something that was necessarily a good thing that was added to the games, or something that's really even readily available. However, there are certain fast travel elements in Final Fantasy that do make life a little bit more convenient, but keep the life a little bit more slow-paced. And the first one I want to talk about is your outpost. The reason why I bring this up is because you're going to encounter generally a locally owned outpost right in your immediate lobby leveling area. And what outposts do is they allow you to utilize them as a vendor if your area controls it. You can teleport to your hometown, and you can teleport to these particular teleport vendors. And it's super convenient, and it's kind of fun to go and get them all because they do change with conquest. And so what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go pick up the quest from that same gate guard that provides Cygnet, and then you're going to head on out to that particular region that has the outpost that you've picked up the supplies for, and you're going to deliver those. Once you deliver the supplies, you're then going to get some conquest points for delivering them and access to the teleport vendor there. Now, the cool thing is even if you lose that area in a conquest calculation, you are still going to be able to teleport there. It's just a bit more costly, but you have it forever. And it's like a little mini game. You get to collect these over time, and it might take you a couple months to collect it. And depending on how much you play, it might take you a year or so to collect all of them. So it's a really cool element that they've added to the game, or they added to the game back in the day. That allows you to get around the world a little bit easier. So be sure to start picking those up as soon as you can and delivering those supplies. You can pick them up on your way throughout the world and deliver them rather throughout the world as you're doing your leveling progression. So grab those, and let's move on to the next topic. Teleports are awesome. This is one of the original fast travel means within Final Fantasy XI. And what this allowed you to do back in Chains of Prometheus, it was basically allowed you to get to certain areas of the world through a means of teleportation, spells that were provided by the White Mage job. And 3 of these particular teleports can be used by a sub-job White Mage at max level if you're using it as a sub-job. So the teleports that are around the world are, there are 6 different teleports, and you can attain 3 of these before you ever even hit level 20 and are in Juno. So I recommend going out and getting these as you're running through the areas. If you're headed to Dunes to do some leveling, be sure to stop in over at Lothian and Kronstadt to get those 2 particular teleports, and take a little brief boat ride over onto Boo Boo Ramu Peninsula, where you can get you can head on over to the last teleport, Mia teleport crystal, and pick that up. Those 3 are pretty essential. They allow you to get around the bulk of the world without having to get every one of those outposts, or you can use it as a substitute while you're getting those outposts. So be sure to pick up those, and then when you get to an adequate level where it's necessary, head on over to get Yot and Vazel and Altepa, because you're going to need those for later story missions, as well as your later game artifact quests and things like that. So it's a really essential part of fast travel in this game, and I would definitely recommend going and getting those as soon as possible. Ah, yes, the iconic Chocobo. I mean, what would be Final Fantasy without a Chocobo? I mean, it's essential to the Final Fantasy universe. Well, once you reach level 20, you can do a quest in Upper Juno that allows you to attain a Chocobo license that allows you then to rent the Chocobos from the different vendors throughout the world. This is another one of those important fast travel elements, and one of the reasons why I'm mentioning it, not just because of the nostalgia, but because it is a very important part to traveling the game and to reduce time from getting from one point to another. It also is a gil sync that takes some of the gil out of the economy and keeps prices and things like that a little bit lower, because people in late game are often using Chocobos to travel around very quickly from one place to another. Now, to do this, you're going to head on up to Upper Juno, and you're going to go to the Chocobo stables, and Bruno is there, and he's going to provide you with a quest. Now, this quest is going to require you to feed Goshel greens to the Chocobo that is there. There is one caveat here, though. He will not eat those greens initially. So the way it works is for every day game time, you're going to have to spend 1 hour in real life waiting in between feedings. So after the first initial feedings, the Chocobo is not going to take them, and then he's going to start to eat them. And then after you've given him 4 of those greens, you can then get your license to ride a Chocobo. This is something I strongly recommend doing on a weekend when you got some Netflix to catch up on, or you've got some other things to do, or at least, you know, throughout the week, maybe log in once a night and do one of the turn-ins until you get it unlocked, because it is a bit time consuming. It's 6 hours in total, and unless you're that kind of weird person that wants to stand there for 6 hours, it's probably best to fill your time with something else, unless you like to watch paint dry. Quests and missions. This is something that, when you think about an MMO, it's an element of the game in most modern MMOs, but it's not something that is extremely important. Now, with these older MMOs, especially Final Fantasy, it's kind of to be expected. Missions are there to deliver the story elements that Final Fantasies are, they've always delivered on. You know, Final Fantasy XIV has an amazing story. It has a ridiculously long main quest, but I digress. Final Fantasy XI, on the other hand, has quests that may feel optional and missions that may feel optional, but every quest in the game is meaningful. Every quest is going to give you an item that you can use for a job, or you can use as an item, or you can sell on the auction house for money if you're not going to use that particular item. In addition to that, the missions are very important because they're going to unlock other elements of the game. They're going to unlock different tiers of your conquest points, so that way you can buy higher level items that you can, again, sell for a higher amount or utilize at a higher level job. In addition to that, these quests not only deliver a very amazing story, but they also, in a lot of elements, they kind of promote play with other players. So you're going to have missions that you cannot do yourself. You're going to have to do them with your friends or find people in the world to do them with. And I think it's a great addition to a game that encourages that group play, that encourages you to play with your fellows and to see gains throughout the game, like access to new content, access to new zones, access to new, you know, raid areas and things like that. So be sure to do those quests, be sure to do those missions. You can find a lot of the information out there on the different wikis that are available, and for the most part, they tend to be mostly consistent with Nasomi. Now, these last two topics I'm going to talk about, I think, are very, 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 very important topics. The first one here is plan your journey. And what I mean by plan your journey is you're going to have a much better time if you plan your journey, if you plan this game, because it's a very complex, a very complicated game on its surface. But when you really get down to it, if you plan accordingly and you figure out what you want to do in advance and plan your time accordingly and organize your events, it makes it so much easier to enjoy. Now, one of the big things about planning your journey is going to be leveling your job and your sub-job. Now, this is a process that I started to adhering to a long time ago, you know, when making new characters, or in this case, starting up on Final Fantasy Nasomi. Now, what I would recommend doing is leveling up a job that is going to be your sub-job for your sub-job. What do I mean by this? I mean, if you're going to play a paladin, you're going to want warrior as your secondary job because of provoke. What you would do then is your intention is to get your warrior to 37. Well, your warrior is going to need a sub-job as well. So you would then maybe level your monk or your thief, depending what route you want to go. And at some point, you're going to want to get ninja. So let's say we're starting off as a fresh player and we want to play paladin. Well, what I recommend is going and leveling your warrior. Okay? But what you got to do first, or you don't have to, but I strongly recommend it, is to start off with your monk. You level your monk to 18, which is half of what's necessary for leveling your warrior up to 37 as your main secondary job. So once you get 18, you can unlock sub-jobs. Now your monk is already level 18. You can now level your warrior all the way up to level 37 with a monk sub-job if you prefer. And it's a very universal sub-job for warrior. It allows you to tank in the lower levels and even provide pretty decent DPS in the mid-range as well, the mid-low range, if you will. So you then go do that, you get 37, you go unlock Paladin, and what now? You can level Paladin all the way to level 75, and you're never interrupted by having to go level your sub-jobs. Now, this does take some of the fun elements out of the game. It does take that element of, you know, just doing things, just going along with the flow. But I will tell you that if you were to do things like this, it will make your life much easier, because what's worse than being on a roll, leveling your main job, and then A, looking like an asshat by having your sub job under-leveled, or B, having to use a job that doesn't fit with your particular class just because you want to appear that you have a valid sub job, then, you know, being interrupted to go level a sub job. So if you were to start off by leveling your sub job, and then your sub job, and then your main job, it does eliminate that process. It's a bit tedious at first, but you'll thank yourself greatly when you get to the point where you're just having a ton of fun, and that, you know, lower, you know, the upper mid tier to the lower end game part of the game. It's definitely something that makes a huge difference. Now, this last and final topic, I feel, is the most important topic of this entire video. We play these games for the camaraderie. These games, in their own essence, EverQuest Reborn is still alive in the EverQuest servers that are retail. There are certain types of servers there that even act like an emulator. Final Fantasy still exists in a live format. A lot of these games still exist in a live format. But we go to these emulators not just because we can play them without cost, but in a specific scenario of Final Fantasy Nasomi, because we have generally, during active peak hours, over 1,700 people that we can play with. And that's why we go to these games, because a lot of modern MMORPGs have gone away from that group play, that relationship building that takes place, or should take place, in an online environment. So with Nasomi, this last tip is the most important tip. Get a link shell, make friends, make parties, party with the same people regularly, and build a name for yourself. Make friends with people to help you with those quests and to help them with the quests. Go out into the world and pay it forward. I can't tell you how many times somebody has come to me and helped me with something that I greatly needed assistance with, and I was able to then get some levels and then provide that same service to a new player who had just started themselves. Like, meet people, build relationships, and your life in this game is going to be grand. You're going to have an amazing time. Not only are you going to have fun, you're going to have access to individuals to get things done, which in turn make the game even more fun, because who doesn't want to progress? So be sure to go out there and make friends. Don't be an ass. You know, be yourself. And unless you are an ass, but be yourself, go out there and have some fun and enjoy yourself within the game, and enjoy the elements that are these classic MMORPGs. And, you know, again, I can't reiterate enough, this is the most important tip that I can offer, because if you get nothing else from this video, this particular tip, this is going to help you get information that you're going to need that I didn't cover in this video. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone for watching. I hope you guys found these tips helpful. Be sure to check back with us on a regular basis. We are putting out videos going forward on these particular subjects. We will be covering some of these older MMOs in a little bit more detail. We've heard that you guys want some of this guide content, so we want to do it. BattleAx Live is coming up very soon. And, you know, if you guys want, be sure to like and subscribe. We would really appreciate it. Share these videos with your friends, so that way you don't have to explain every little thing. They can get this information on their own time. And if you have any other content you would like to see us cover, be sure to comment in the comment section, so that we can hear your ideas and get some ideas of things that you guys would like to see. Until next time, see you again.